Europeans, we're going to learn that not by reading about how, angry they were, but by actually feeling how angry they were, by having them create this big mural that had their land on it, and then coming in and saying, okay, see, we actually do this. And then they come to school one day, and all of their long houses and their land's been taken away by all these Europeans. And they get really angry and go, well, that's what happened. They've got better guns, so they get to keep that land now. So that's incidental learning in my mind. Okay, so pretend that you're a teacher and a parent complains that, man, all you guys do in your classroom is you play these games and build stuff. You're not learning anything. Well, how are you going to respond to that? And your supervisor, how are you going to respond and explain what you're actually doing in regards to learning? Okay, so our last section, guys. Somebody asked earlier, I think it was the gentleman that took off, about how, how valuable pictures are. Well, here's a really good example of that, using senses to enhance learning. The concept of multiplying fractions is entirely complex when you look at it as an abstract act. Someone said 1/4 times 1/2 doesn't even make sense. 1/4 times 1/2. Because when we teach kids about multiplication, we'll say 3 times 4 means you've got 3 4 times, or you've got 3 groups of 4. So now you're saying, well, okay, so 1/4 times 1/2, you have 1/4 groups of 1/2, or you have 1/4 1/2 times. So making that connection from whole number multiplication to fractional multiplication, it's really, really difficult for kids. Trust me. But if you use pictures, it starts to make sense. Say, okay, take this square, and we're going to find out what 1/4. And first of all, if you substitute the word of for the word times, it makes a little more sense. 1/4 of 1/2, which can be done. Okay, you got a whole thing, cut it in half. Okay, you got 1/2. So what's 1/4 of that? Okay, well, you divide that half into 4 equal pieces. Okay, and you color one of them. So you basically, this is 1/4 of 1/2. And what is that all together? Well, it's 1/8. And you keep doing that a bunch of times until they get it. So you're using the concrete, the representational, not the abstract. But then at some point, you can say, well, as you grow up, son, you're going to have to figure out that there is an algorithm. And an algorithm is basically a process that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but works, right? 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 2 is 8, that works. 1/4 times 1/2 is 1/8. They go, oh, well, why didn't you just tell me to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators? I could have done that a month ago. I said, well, you wouldn't have learned what it meant, though. So we want to do this before we do that. Does that make sense?
From concrete to abstract.
Yes, go from concrete to representational to abstract. Is that what you were going to say, or?
I would say that generally we end up doing the opposite.
Really? So you do the abstract first, then you go back and explain what it means?
No, I'm talking about not as a teacher, but as a student, what our experiences have been. Now that you mentioned it.
So a lot of us learn how to multiply fractions without really understanding what was going on there.
All the rules and we're like, okay.
It just seems to me that it'd be a lot easier to understand it if you got this picture figured out, then you do it. Another way to use sense is to enhance learning, and you can't really see that, but graphic organizers, I like to use those a lot. And it's just a way of organizing information in a way that kind of makes sense for the kids and it gives meaning. So this is we take our kids on field trips, and then they have pen pals. So my kids were gonna write letters to their pen pals. So first of all, I put the scoring guide over here, so that takes advantage of the fact that they know from the outset what they need to be doing. Okay, so here's your first task, right? The introduction, follow the arrow. First event, talk about that, follow the arrow. Second event, and then your conclusion. So they kind of see it, okay, I get it now. There's a 4-paragraph thing, first, second, I get it. They'll do that, and then they'll copy that down onto their final draft. Okay? Or a schematic drawing. We were doing a story path unit in social studies on communities, and I told them, they came in one day and I said, you know what? I just found out that your community, which by the way was completely paper, but little kids they can buy into it, has really bad water because you guys you're just dumping your filthy water into the community's river, and everybody's taking their water out of the river, and they're getting sick, and it's not a good thing. And they got all grossed out. I said, well, what do we? So they came up with this idea, and they said we need to filter the water before it gets to our houses, and then we should probably filter the water after it comes out of the house so that it's clean when it gets back into the river. So while they were explaining that, I made this drawing. I said, this is what you mean? They go, yeah, that's exactly what we mean. It's got a filter here and a filter there. So that's how they solved the problem. Okay. Auditory senses enhances learning. That's why we use a lot of rhythms and chants. It's also why we use piggyback songs, and that's a way of, it's kind of a pneumatic that you talked about earlier, man. Like, we have a song in America called "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain When She Comes." You guys know that song?
Yeah.
So we turned that song into the water cycle song, and I'm not going to sing it to you, but it's a way of memorizing, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and accumulation, and they learn it that way. So it's basically a pneumatic. Okay. And we all know that a movie wouldn't be a movie without movie music, because music can evoke certain emotions. Okay, if you take advantage of that, I have to play jazz in my classroom when it's appropriate, because it sets a certain mood. Okay, and people have also shown that musical training leads to higher achievement in math, but a lot of that research has been kind of overblown. All right, last head check. So I showed you a graphic organizer. Discuss why you think a graphic organizer would be useful in terms of helping students learn.
It's
a rehearsal?
Put the experiences in words so you can.
There's a visual, so even though it's a simple picture, you've got one paragraph, another paragraph, another paragraph. Okay.
I think also since you can see it direction, I can understand it better.
Okay. I think we're out of time. Listen, I want to say thank you so much for being a really good and thoughtful audience. It was a lot of fun working with you, and I hope that it was somewhat helpful. You want to take down my name and my email address?
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun working with you, and I hope that it was somewhat helpful. You want to take down my name and my email address? I'd be happy to get back to you. It's WHITE TJ, so white TJ, at Comcast.net, COMCAST.net, yeah. White TJ. I'm sorry? TJ, white TJ. I'm sorry?
You work over here?
No, I work in Seattle.
I was going to say Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy.
That's a shame.
All right, well, have fun at the next, I guess it's tea now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tea, and then the next plenary session? Thanks, I appreciate that. All right. I'm sorry?
Thank you for your time
Oh.
and everything. Nice
All right.
meeting you.
Nice to meet you.